What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Days with Wade. Today we're wading through it. We're going to give you guys the best bits, or my best bits, from the Joe Rogan and Mel Gibson podcast. This was a very fun podcast, so let's get into it. While you're there, if you can give the channel a sub and the video a like, the goal is to get to 100k in 2025, so that would really help me out. Cheers. The first part of note for the podcast is the Passion of the Christ. Joe Rogan makes a bit of a note about how there's a lot of Hollywood resistance to the movie, and Mel Gibson gives his thoughts and his take on making the movie. Let's give it a listen.
Resistance to that movie, like people didn't like that you were making it. It seemed like
there was a lot of opposition to it, and I don't know. I think if you ever hit on that subject matter, you're gonna get people going, because
of course
it's big subject matter, and you're making this film, and the idea was that we're all responsible for this, that his sacrifice was for all mankind, and I believe that. I actually am, I was born into a Catholic family. I'm very Christian in my beliefs, so I do actually believe this stuff to the full. So depicting that was an honor, but it was also, you got the daylights beat out of you for it.
Joe Rogan points out that in the West, we're very tolerant of a lot of other religions, but Christianity gets quite a bad rap. Mel Gibson agrees, but he also says that he's quite critical of it too sometimes. So let's take a listen.
When they appoint some cardinal in some diocese, and he's been covering up for like people who are child molesters.
Yes.
Like Theodore McCarrick or Cardinal Wuerl or those kind of guys.
Or the Pope.
Yes.
Just for context, that Theodore McCarrick was found guilty by the Vatican and was laicized in 2019 for allegations that were proved for abuse against minors and adults. Donald Wuerl was criticized for allowing accused priests back into the ministry and didn't report allegations to the authorities. He also covered up for McCarrick, knowing about the allegations surrounding him since 2004, but did not act, claiming he'd forgotten about the specifics. Mel Gibson goes on to say that the Catholic Church has moved away from what it used to be. Take a listen.
Almost, there's a guy called Bishop Vigano who says it's a counterfeit parallel church, and it's running an entirely different religion. I actually don't adhere to a post-conciliar church.
Post-conciliar church refers to the Catholic Church after the Second Vatican Council, which took place between 1962 and 1965. Vatican II's aim was to modernize the church practices, a push towards better relations between non-Christians and other Christian denominations. The church became more involved in social justice issues and human rights issues. The Archbishop Vigano that Mel Gibson previously mentioned perceived it as a dilution of traditional Catholicism. He goes on to talk about a story when a particular pope was elected. From what I can gather from what he was saying, there's white smoke when they're elected and black smoke when there is no pope, and he goes on to talk about how the smoke occurred on the same day. So let's check it out.
In 1958, I was 2 years old, right? He was elected, and it was a very funny thing that happened in the conclave. Usually there's white and black smoke that goes out of the chimneys to tell you, we have a pope, habemus papam, and the white smoke came out. And everybody cheered, and they went crazy. And then about a half an hour later, black smoke came out. That never in history has that happened. That the white smoke came out, and then the black smoke came out.
White smoke means we found a new pope. Black smoke means no pope.
That's right. They'd have votes, or there'd be one reason or another they'd have a round in the conclave, and black smoke would come out many times maybe. Maybe it would take 2 weeks. But never was it known that white smoke came out, then black smoke came out.
So what was the scenario?
That somebody was elected, and that maybe something else happened, and he was pushed aside and someone else was put in. So it was
power struggle.
Some kind of power struggle. And of course, the man who came out was a man called Angelo Roncalli, and he was John the 23rd. Now, it's interesting to note that never had a pope taken the name of another pope ever before in history.
You can tell you can tell how he's been cancelled from Hollywood and kicked out and ostracized. You can just tell that his brain works in a certain way. Whether he's right or wrong about these issues, I did Google some of them, but you could spend days researching all this stuff and not know. But I like Mel Gibson because his brain, you can see how his brain works and he looks into things and he's, anyway, he's a great guy. So Mel Gibson brings up something very interesting that I knew nothing about called the Pachamama. Let's give it a listen.
I mean, we got a pope that brought a South American idol into the church to worship.
Really?
He did. The Pachamama. He bought the South American, and he got.
I don't know what that is.
It's kind of like a South American god, Pachamama.
Why would he do that?
So the reason why he did that was there was a synod called the Amazon Synod in 2019, which focused on ecological issues, indigenous rights, and bringing the faith to regions in the Amazon. The Amazon Synod did receive a lot of backlash, people claiming that it was mixing paganism with the faith. One notable incident was 2 Austrian men broke into one of the churches where the Pachamama or one of the Pachamamas were being stored, because I think there was a multitude of these different things, and they broke in and threw it into the Tiberias River. The Tiber River. They said it was an act against idolatry, but some other people came out and said it was just blatant vandalism. So it was a very divided issue. Some people thought it was out of respect to the indigenous community of the Amazon region, and other people thought it was an act of idolatry. So getting away from Catholicism and the Vatican and all that, Mel Gibson says every morning that he prays that he doesn't deceive himself. He says that you're responsible for the second thought and the first action. He said the first thought, you throw it away, which I thought was pretty cool. And then Joe Rogan ties it to first degree and second degree murder. How first degree, you've planned it out, you've gone after the person. Second degree, you're in a fight with someone and you're in a blind rage, you stab them and they accidentally die. So I thought that was pretty cool. not that specifically, but the idea of that your second thought and your first action is what you need to focus on. Your first thought, throw it away. Now this part was pretty interesting. Mel Gibson talks about his brain damage, for lack of a better word. He did a lot of rugby. He's got a lot of concussions. He had one of his Australian mates headbutt him at his daughter's wedding. So one of his, doctor friends gave him a scan, and it was an interesting story. So let's just watch it.
I actually spent a long time in my animal brain, which is a very horrible place to be. And
when you say that, what do you mean by you spent a long time in your animal brain?
You're in flight or fight.
Right.
All the time. You don't even sleep. It's like really not a good place to be. And if anybody looks at you the wrong way, you want to bite them.
Yeah.
And sometimes you say and do things that are socially unacceptable. And, I went and got a brain scan by this guy called Daniel Amen, who's this brain guy. He's against all psych meds and stuff, but he thinks like, let me have a look at your brain. And he put a radioactive tracer in me.
Whoa.
And to photograph my brain.
Right,
He works
MRI,
with a lot of,
right?
Yeah, he works with a lot of football players and guys who've got brain injuries. Man, it's thirsty in here. But, so he looked at my brain and he was like, and he opens the file and I'm in there with the guy and he looks up and he goes, "Are you okay?" And he goes, first he went like this. And I said, "What?" And he went, "Are you okay?" Like that. And I said, "Yeah, I think so." And he came over and he sat next to me, but very slowly and cautiously. He says, "No, you're not." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "You got the worst case of PTSD I have ever seen." And I said, you mean like even worse than guys in war and shit like that?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he says, "You're not okay."
Jesus Christ.
And I was like, I started to well up, like, no, I'm not. It's like,
Oh boy.
And it was,
Isn't it funny how men just make a joke of these things? Like if you can just picture being in Mel Gibson's position, having this guy give you a brain scan and say that you're not okay and that you've got all this brain damage and you're actually crying, you're telling someone about it. It's just funny how us as men, we just like to laugh about it. Like there's no, like, it's not funny. It's a horrible situation, but the way we cope with it is we laugh about it. We just tell a joke, and you can tell he's a bit uncomfortable. He rubs his arm a little bit afterwards. So obviously this is a really hard moment that he's gone through, but the first initial reaction is to laugh. I thought that's pretty funny.
He had a very miraculous and great remedy for it, which was to eat a bunch of fish oil, vitamin B complex, and get into a hyperbaric chamber for 40 sessions. But make sure you do at least 2 or 3 a week.
There you go. So now they're going to get into the Shroud of Turin. Something that I've seen online, but I didn't actually do any digging on this, so it's pretty awesome. Their first historical account was in 1354. In 1389, it went on exhibition, but the Bishop of Troyes said that it was cunningly painted, so they basically came out and said it was fake. In 2022, they performed a wide-angle X-ray, which is a scattering to analyze it, and found that the degradations on the shroud's linen were compatible to another linen sample found around that time of around 55 to 74 AD. The researchers obviously didn't come out and say this is exactly what it is, but at least they can prove that it came from around that time. So that's something pretty cool as well. Mel Gibson believes that there's no disease out there that doesn't have a cure already. He goes on to talk about how his 3 friends have had stage 4 cancer that have all been healed now. So let's take a listen.
I have 3 friends. All 3 of them had stage 4 cancer. All 3 of them don't have cancer right now at all. And they had some serious stuff going on.
And what did they take?
Jesus. They took some, what you've heard they've taken.
Ivermectin.
Fenbendazole.
Fenbendazole. Yeah. I'm hearing that a lot.
They drank hydrochloride something or other.
There's studies on that now where people have proven that
people
they've
drinking methylene blue and stuff like that.
Yeah, methylene blue, which was a fabric dye.
Yeah.
This is why I love the Joe Rogan Experience. How would you ever get this information? Is anyone actually talking about it? You're never going to find this information anywhere else. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much wraps it up for Wading Through with Mel Gibson. What were your thoughts on Mel Gibson on the Joe Rogan? Did he say some good things? Did he say some things that kind of pissed you off? Let me know in the comments below. Guys, just real quick, I've got a underwear business, so if you want to get yourself some nice comfy men's underwear, the link to Ultimate Underwear Club will be in the description below. It's a great way to support the channel, so you help me keep creating good content like this. Guys, if you like the video, make sure to give it a like and hit subscribe to the channel. I've got loads more good summaries of wading through it coming your way. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.